Let's unpack all of this with John Hart, the CEO of Open Books, a leading government transparency nonprofit group. John, thank you so much for joining us.
You bet. It's good to be on.
Speaking of the affordability crisis, Trump announcing on Truth Social this morning, as I mentioned, that a $2,000 tariff dividend would be paid to Americans, and it would be from everyone except for high-income people. But meantime, you got the Supreme Court is taking up the case about Trump tariffs, and it could invalidate them. But that doesn't mean the tariffs would end. Of course, we know Trump is using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, so maybe he would just have to shift gears. Talk to us about the affordability crisis and how Trump is trying to combat it. And then you have the Democrats, as I said, weaponizing the economy that they destroyed.
Well, look, I think when you open the books, when you follow this principle of transparency and understand what government has done, here's what comes out as the truth, is that the best way to make something expensive is for government to make it affordable. That is the story of economics, not just in the past year or 10 years, but for most of human history, is that when you shift more and more authority to centralized powers, you take away the ability of individuals to create. And that's what animated our founders. Thomas Jefferson said the natural order of things is for liberty to yield and for government to gain ground. So what the administration is trying to do is they understand that these results were suboptimal, to put it mildly, on Tuesday. Ted Cruz called it an electoral blowout. Steve Bannon said it's a warning. It should be a wake-up call. And the reason is because you have a whole new generation of people who didn't grow up during the Cold War and who are responding to the siren song of socialism. But again, if you look at the data, the more money we spend on government, the less money is available to the private sector, and everything goes up in price. And so what the administration is trying to do is redirect that. And so I think, I'm not a big fan of the tariffs. I don't think that's really the optimal policy, but there are a lot of other policies that are fantastic that the administration's pursuing. Keeping tax rates low. But again, the best economic stimulus possible is to shrink the size of the federal government, reduce our debt and deficits, get rid of the fraud, right, and again, allow people to create with their own money.
And the tariffs already, since I think through September, already have brought in $90 billion. But clearly, none of us are immune to socialist scams like Mamdani is trying to push through. They could spread to cities across the nation. I think that's what the Democrat Party wants. It's going further left. That's why Pelosi got pushed out, and I think Schumer is next. Several Democratic states allowing more than $1 billion of federal taxpayer dollars to be spent on funding Medicare and Medicaid for illegals. I mean, we're talking people with criminal records. Let's take a listen to what CMS Administrator Dr. Oz, when he talked about this.
We're spending money from Washington to care for illegal immigrants around the country. How do I know that? We started investigating the first few states that we thought would be most likely to have done this. And it turns out just in the last few months, it's already $1 billion plus of money that's been spent in states that think that they should provide health care to illegal immigrants. So we have stopped it. We are clawing back that money. We've already gotten hundreds of millions of dollars back, which again, it proves that these states realized that they were guilty because they wouldn't give us the money back otherwise.
Now, the Trump administration was asked by a federal judge to provide full SNAP benefits for the month of November, but the U.S. Supreme Court just stepped in, temporarily blocking them from issuing the SNAP benefits. Maybe, you know what, John, that might be a good thing. Let's break down the ethnic background of the people getting the majority of SNAP benefits. 45% are Afghan immigrants, 42% Somali immigrants, 34% Iraqi immigrants, 23% of Haitians. And then, as we talked about, 59%, John, of all illegal aliens are on food stamps. There is 42 million people are on food stamps, SNAP benefits. There has to be, I think this is a great opportunity. What do you think to root out all the fraud, waste, and abuse here?
Yeah, and we know with SNAP, the improper payment rate alone with the SNAP program is about $10 billion a year. And we also know from other programs, Medicaid, education spending, there are billions of dollars that are going to illegal immigrants throughout this country. And Democrats are arguing now that's federal law prevents that from happening, but we know that the money's fungible. It's going to states, it's going to illegal populations. And we've also documented millions of dollars in grants and earmarks where Democrats actually brag about federal money going directly to undocumented citizens. So again, this is an opportunity to look at the fraud, to root it out. And what's happening now is Democrats are using hungry people as human shields. Look, hunger is a real problem in this country. You've got between, maybe 5 and 15% of legitimate cases where, these SNAP benefits are important. But every dollar of SNAP benefits that goes to a criminal or someone that isn't here illegally is a dollar not available to help someone that should receive it. And again, why are we doing all of this from the federal government? Why not shift, these dollars and resources to the states and let it be done much more compassionately and efficiently? And what we see from the left is this counterfeit compassion, this idea that the way to solve these problems is just to have bigger subsidies, bigger programs from Washington. Well, if that was the solution, we would have solved healthcare, we would have solved affordability and hunger decades ago. And so we need to rethink everything, and that's what the Trump administration is trying to do.
John Hart, thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you.